So adapt from presumption to precision. You can see the fading, the out of focus, then coming into focus of the AM. And adaptive management is what the AM stands for. There's 3 sections on the page. Why does this matter? What are the benefits? And how will we get them? And the first section, why does this matter, is the longest. The other 2 are what are the benefits, are kind of a menu of additional content, and how we get them also leads to other options. But the why does this matter is really the main content for this page. As we go, you can ask me questions or whatever. Oh, well, I was going to read it to you. If you want to read, you can, but, huh?
You can if you want.
Okay, well, I want to so that you can actually comment on it as we go.
Alright.
So, using the relevant amount of precision produces much better results than operating presumptively. And keep in mind that graphic of the fuzzy getting the out of focus blur going to the AM that's clear. Using the relevant amount of precision produces much better results than operating presumptively. By respecting precision, we can consistently produce better results in much less time and with much fewer resources. In other words, efficiency is a function of precision. Efficiency means effectiveness, productivity, profitability, and economy. The connection between precision and effectiveness is simple enough. The more complex issue is the issue of presumptiveness and how operating presumptively can be so detrimental, wasteful, stressful, and frustrating. Clear so far? Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. What is the basic problem with presumptions? Of course, the basic problem with presumptions is that some of them are not accurate. How important can that be? Operating on inaccurate presumptions consistently produces what kind of results? When people are disappointed with their results, that might be a sign of an inaccurate presumption. However, that can also be a sign of poor execution, like from insufficient skill or inconsistent self-discipline. Mere disappointment with results is not firm evidence of an inaccurate presumption. However, a much more certain signal of an inaccurate presumption would be confusion or even frustration. Confusion is the experience of recognizing that I've already been confusing one thing for something else, and then I eventually recognize that, whether gradually or quite suddenly. Frustration corresponds to the presumption that I was not confused about something, but obviously I have been. Frustration is a function of our resistance or openness to admitting confusion. The slower that I am to admit confusion, the more frustrated I will get before I do admit to any confusion. Clear so far?
Yeah.
What if I say to myself that something is wrong here because this should not be like this? If I say that with calmness about the confusion, then I just mean that I expected something else, and this is not what I presumed that it would be. But what if there is distress in the background? In that case, we find the various offspring of frustration, such as embarrassment, jealousy, resentment, and condemnation.
What is the for me? Condemnation.
What does condemnation mean?
Yeah.
The act of condemning something.
Okay.
So I'm saying that certain variations or offspring of frustration are embarrassment, jealousy, resentment, and condemnation. And I don't go into a lot of detail about that here, but when I'm frustrated, I could be embarrassed about that. I could look around at other people's results and go, I wish I had that. And you see how that's connected to frustration? Resentment, I would have that if it wasn't for blah, 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 blah. And condemnation is, those people shouldn't have that. I should, and they should not. It's, that kind of thing can be how people talk when they're condemning something.
Yeah.
So all of those stem from a root of confusion plus different levels of distress about what I expected that I already should have accomplished by now. Is that clear?
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm interested in the results that someone else is getting, but I'm not using the method that they used or not using it well, then I might condemn their methods as providing them an unfair advantage. In some cases, condemning others for cheating may result in an investigation and other interventions. However, to keep things simple and brief, let's just emphasize that several types of experience all signal a root of confusion, like they're branches from that seed or root of confusion. While confusion always signals at least one inaccurate presumption. So when I recognize, okay, so when I recognize a particular presumption as presumptive, that means it will be easier to update it based on observation and experience. Most expectations can also be easily examined, tested, and then confirmed or refined. But the biggest source of frustrations can be presumptions that we do not recognize as presumptive. If we relate to presumptive expectations as dogmas or sacred doctrines, learning can be very slow and efficiency can be very low. Frustration and shame can get overwhelming, exhausting, or even paralyzing.
Okay.
Do you know what a doctrine is?
Yeah, isn't it the certificate if you're a doctor?
That is close. That is a doctorate. It's a type of degree called a doctorate, or a PhD. It would be Doctor of Philosophy is what PhD stands for. So that is not what I'm talking about. Doctrine is the origin or the root of the word indoctrination. It's related to the word doctor and doctorate, but I'll say a little bit more about what a doctrine is. I'm not actually going to get into much depth here, but a doctrine is a specific idea about something. Typically an idea that I'm not really examining or questioning because I'm just taking it on faith. And some things I don't have a way to examine, so taking it on faith is my only option. So a dogma is also just an idea, as in a perspective or even a presumption. Okay? Any question about those terms?
No.
Okay? Learning doctrines and dogmas can be very useful and valuable. However, it can also be valuable to question, test, and update those types of ideas. In the event of any apparent conflict between direct observation and presumptive expectations, does that apparent conflict result in curiosity and precise investigation, or in distress, panic, denial, and condemnation? So you understand the question I'm raising?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever heard someone say, "I can't believe it"? Of course, right? They can say, "I can't believe it" out of delight or out of distress. In delight, saying, "I don't believe it" would mean that they might not have believed something if someone had predicted it in advance and told them that's what was going to happen. They would have said, "I wouldn't have believed it," right? In distress, saying, "I won't believe it" would mean that they do not want to believe it because it conflicts with something that they would strongly prefer to believe instead. They may even scramble for reasons to dismiss what they directly observe, to ridicule people who, point to contrary evidence or possible contrary evidence. In distress, someone may panic to distract themselves from contrary evidence or observations.
Such as selling tantrums or violent. I don't know what that word is.
Okay, I'll let you read just after this part. So in panic, someone may want to distract themselves from some information or some evidence, some experience.
I know what you're talking about. Like, they don't want to accept what they see, so they panic and try and find excuses.
Right, and it can be that they want to have a reason to dismiss stuff, but in some cases they don't even bother to dismiss something. They just neglect it and distract themselves from it, and that can involve throwing tantrums. You know what I mean by throwing tantrums, right?
Yeah.
Or vilifying some convenient scapegoat. Do you know what that means? Scapegoat.
Oh, like trying to find a way out. So, a scapegoat is like the same thing as the term on a lamb, but it's when you're trying to find the scapegoat, you're trying to find a way to get on the lamb.
A way to get on what?
The lamb. That's a fish.
Oh, get on the lamb. I actually don't know how you mean that. I've heard the phrase, but I don't know how you mean it.
Like they're running away from their problem.
Okay. Well, vilifying some convenient scapegoat means condemning or ridiculing some person or group, typically. The term scapegoat does come from the fact that in medieval times people would actually use a goat, and then they would like sacrifice the goat. They would say, you know, this goat is the cause of all the trouble for our village, and then they would set the goat loose. Everybody would run after it, hunt the goat, kill the goat, and then everybody would celebrate because now they'd solved the problem by killing the goat. Now their, you know, their village was going to be free from the curse of divine disfavor or something. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
So vilifying a scapegoat could just mean like if somebody just goes on and on about how they hate a certain politician, and they say really like stretched things, really passionately say really stretched things about how they blame that, you know, that person or that group, if it's a group, whatever. Okay? So the idea of tantrums is there are a lot of theatrics, there's a lot of drama. Doesn't have to be a lot of intelligence or logic. It's just very emotional and very distracting. The whole point is if I have some doctrine or dogma and I see that my doctrine or dogma isn't a good match for my experience and my observation, I may panic and just distract myself from that whole, you know, inconsistency between my doctrines and my observations. Okay? All right, I'll let you read a little bit.
However, does the sun stop shining if we look away from it or close our eyes? How about this? When a child is playing peekaboo and they close their own eyes, can you still see the child?
Okay, do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
If a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound?
If no one's there to hear it, right.
Yeah. It's that. Pretending that presumptions are not from
Presumptive. Pretending that presumptions are not presumptive.
Okay. Will not increase precision. I can't say the word precision. Precision. I can't say the word. I know what word it is. I can't. Precision.
There you go.
What will be the predictable result of pretending the presumptions are not presumptive?
Does that make sense?
And that will produce disappointing results plus increase in confusion and frustration.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
I couldn't say precision. So the basic value of precision, oh my god, I can see, is the minimize confusion and I don't know what that word is.
Inefficiency. So the basic value of precision, is to minimize confusion and also minimize inefficiency. Yeah.
Okay. How? By examining perceptions and then refining them to keep them closely
tuned to reality. Okay, does that make sense?
Oh,
that make sense?
Yeah, I get that.
Okay. I think the next section will be easy for you to read through for the most part. And
what are the benefits?
if you want.
Quickly review some actual benefits that people have experienced. These are just a short list of samples of what is possible. Health. The reversal of
incurable
medical conditions and achieving health weight without exceeding sugary or dietary.
I think you need to like zoom in so you can see these letters bigger. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's because I'm leaning to the side and the computer's like sideways and there's glare.
Yeah.
And I have to like move it and then I have to move it again.
Do you know how to hit if you hit like the control button?
I have a touch screen.
Oh, it's a touch screen, like you're on a tablet or something? Okay.
It's a laptop, but it's touch screen.
Yeah, you might try and make it bigger. I'm gonna reread that one. Well, let me reread the health thing to make sure you're clear on what it means. The reversal of incurable medical conditions. You know what that means?
Yeah, so like cancer.
Things that people think are incurable, or some people think are incurable. Yeah.
Cancer.
So the ending of the production of that effect, and achieving healthy weight without exercise, surgery, or dietary change. So most people think to achieve healthy weight, you need to do different, more exercise, change your diet, or in some cases people have a kind of surgery that will actually reduce their weight. But that is not required. The people can have massive improvements in their weight without changing those things that they think sometimes might think are required. How? I wasn't planning to get into the detail of that at this stage. I can say more, but can we save that for later?
Yeah. Okay. Wealth, massive reductions in debt, sudden increase in investment profitability, and sudden increase in the. Hold on, I have to scroll back. Effectiveness of business marketing programs. Okay, I get that.
Yeah, okay, you can go on.
Communication, the ability to calmly recognize what communication is healthy and to efficiently exit from unhealthy interactions. Okay,
you actually read one word wrong. It's the ability to calmly recognize when communication is healthy. Otherwise,
healthy.
It's almost the same meaning, actually, what you said. But, okay, go ahead.
Well, what did I
say? You said what? The ability to calmly recognize what communication is healthy, which makes sense. Like which patterns of communication are healthy or how healthy they are. That's all the same idea. No problem. You want to do the last one?
Yeah, I will.
It's actually got the longest words.
Good. Relationship. Tolerance. know the word, but I can't pronounce it.
Okay.
Or other people's inconsistency, confusion, and functions.
No,
Plus the ability
you
to...
missed the word there.
I did?
Yeah, with the F.
Oh. Frustration.
Yeah. Tolerance for other people's
Plus the
inconsistency.
ability to
Okay.
reduce or eliminate, resolve,
Tensions?
what's that?
Tensions. Tensions, in this case, between two or more people. So when there's...
Tension?
Yeah, tensions.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I could feel tense myself, but when I feel that there's...
I know, like tension.
Yeah, tension between people would be
And
like resistance.
conflict.
And conflicts, yeah.
Okay. Producing huge improvements in the effectiveness of any partnership. To review documents of any of the above results, click here. Actual results.
Okay, I'm going to read the header here, number 3, and we're almost done. How will we get the benefits? Do you want to read a little of that? I can read if you'd like. Okay. Naturally, for different people, different innovations will be relevant. In other words, for different people to get different benefits or wherever they start from, they're going to need to do different things to get those benefits. So in most cases, there is no need to understand the specifics of how something works. Like flipping on a light switch, you can see for yourself whether it works or not. You do not need to understand anything at all about light bulbs, electrical wiring, and the physics of electrons or photons. You may need to know that if the light bulb goes out and how to replace it, but you don't need to know how a light bulb works. So we will help you assess, so whether or not you are interested in understanding the details, we'll help you assess exactly what is relevant for you now and as your priorities change. In general, it will be helpful to understand the following basics. You don't need to understand details, but here's a few basics that are helpful. And it is good to understand everything we previously covered in that first section of why this matters earlier. So we all have the potential to go through these 5 general modes of personal development. Do you want to read those real quick?
Open, directed, yeah. Let me zoom in. Presumptive,
Cautious.
I don't know. What?
Cautious.
Cautious, okay. And adaptive.
Right. Open, directed. So we begin open, then we get directed, like directed by other people, and then we become presumptive, so whatever we've been directed to presume, we continue to presume. And eventually we find that our presumptions don't match with our observations or our experiences, and that leads us to become cautious, and eventually we start to get pretty perceptive, and we get perceptive, which means that we're able to adapt in a self-directed way or a self-disciplined way. We don't need a lot of external structure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So different modes of operating may be used by the same person at one point in their life in regard to different aspects of their life. So the different aspects could be health, wealth, communication, and relationships. And somebody might be, very adaptive in regard to health or communication, but very presumptive in regard to some other aspect of their life. So these aren't the mode that somebody uses in their whole life. These are just different modes, and any of them could be in use. In fact, in regard to health, that's a big subject. So maybe somebody is adaptive in regard to one thing, but very presumptive or cautious about a different subcategory relating to health. Okay?
Okay.
So all of the above modes are adaptations to circumstances. They are like phases of personal development. Although only the very last one, that I call being adaptive, involves conscious, self-directed adapting. So it's like maturity or responsibility where somebody's fully responsible.
Okay.
Like reliable. So after any immediate urgent needs of yours have been addressed, then you can shift toward being at least cautious rather than being stuck. Some people have experienced being stuck in presumptiveness. So someone can shift toward being at least cautious and eventually adaptive. To reach the mode of self-directed adaptiveness in all aspects of life, you may find that you greatly value communicating with others who have experienced similar transitions to whatever you're going through at any particular time, and who have already explored innovations that are unfamiliar to you and have already produced results that will powerfully attract you. That you'll be attracted to those results, and then you'll be interested in the methods because of the results produced by those methods. So that's the idea. And this is a website for people who don't know me. So the very last thing here is, for now, you can contact us in regard to the priorities that you currently consider to be the most motivating to you, like whatever aspect of life is the most urgent or intriguing. And then you will get access. I'm saying things wrong. Then you will get access to joining our free live conference calls, as well as find out how to qualify for a free consultation. To get started, they can click that final link. Do you want to make any comment or question about everything here?
Not really.
Okay, makes sense?
Yeah.
Very good.